Hi guys and welcome back to another video. In this video I will be talking about the zones criteria which is used for the diagnosis of rheumatic fever. For the diagnosis of rheumatic fever according to zones criteria, we need two major manifestations or one major manifestation and two minor manifestations should be there for the diagnosis of rheumatic fever according to the zones criteria. Let's see what are the major and the minor manifestations and the mnemonic for the major and minor manifestations of the Jones criteria. So here the mnemonic for Jones criteria is Jones criteria itself. But after knowing the mnemonic, you don't cry to remember the Jones criteria. So the cry in criteria should be removed. And let's see the major manifestations. The major manifestations can be remembered with the mnemonic zones. The J in Jones represents a joint involvement, which is polyarthritis. Polyarthritis is the condition involve inflammation of the multiple joints. Okay, and O in Jones, the O is considered as a heart. So the involvement of heart with pancreatitis. Pancreatitis should be is one of the major manifestation, and N represents the nodule which is subcutaneous type, and E represents the erythema nodosum, and S represents the Sydenham's chorea, which is involuntary movements of the hands and feet and sometimes face. Let's see the minor manifestation. The minor manifestation can be remembered with the mnemonic teria. So in criteria, we remove the cry and the teria is used for the for remembering the minor manifestations of the zones criteria. So the T represents the elevated temperature, which is the fever, and E represents the elevated ESR and elevated leukocyte count. R represents the raised CRP. I itself previously, that is history of rheumatic fever, previous history of rheumatic fever, and A represents arthralgia. Arthralgia is a condition where there is no inflammation, but there are painful joints, and A also represents AV block, which are first degree, not the second degree or third degree. They are the first degree AV blocks are considered as minor manifestations of zones criteria. Let's see, for example, a 13 years old male child have polyarthritis and pancreatitis. Here, let's see. Come back. Okay, let's see. The child has polyarthritis and pancreatic changes. So, according to Jones' criteria, does the child have rheumatic fever? So, according to Jones' criteria, polyarthritis is, according to our mnemonic, J is joint involvement, which is polyarthritis, plus and pancreatic changes. What pancreatitis is? That is the heart involvement, which is also present in the major manifestation. So in this case, the child has two major manifestations according to Jones criteria. So the child may have rheumatic fever. Okay, this is about the first case. And see the second case. A 10 years old child, old male child, came to the OPD with the complaints of, read the complaints carefully, fever and involuntary movements of the hands, feet and face with a history of previous rheumatic fever. See the previous history of previous rheumatic fever and fever current, this fever is current fever and it is previous one. Okay, these two are considered as a minor criteria. Okay na, minor manifestations of the zones criteria. And the involuntary movement, see here the involuntary movements of what happened to this. See, the involuntary movements of the hands and feet and face is called chorea. Okay, this is chorea. It is one of the major manifestation. Okay, major manifestation in the zones criteria. So in this case, we have one major manifestation and two minor manifestation, which is sufficient according to, as we discussed previously, which is sufficient for diagnosis of rheumatic fever according to the zones criteria. So the most probable diagnosis in this case is rheumatic fever. So this is about the Jones criteria and the major and minor manifestations of Jones criteria, and the mnemonic for remembering the things, the manifestations in the major and the minor manifestations, and some of the cases. So hope you guys like this video. Please do share with your friends. Thank you.